Welcome to True Haitian Crime Story. I'm your host, Shayna Pierre. Tonight's story takes us deep into the mind of a man whose life began in the mountains of Haiti and ended in the cold walls of a Florida prison. A husband, a father, and a self-proclaimed man of faith, yet behind closed doors, he was battling demons far darker than anyone imagined. This is the story of Mesac Damas, the Haitian-born father who brutally murdered his wife and 5 children, fled to Haiti, and later claimed that spirits and jealousy drove him to kill. The Mesac Damas murders, faith, madness, and murder in Naples, Florida. Mesac Damas was born on July 2, 1976, in Haiti, into a family consumed by domestic violence and poverty, 2 elements that would foreshadow the darkness that would later define his life. Raised as an evangelical Christian, young Mesac's world was shaped by rigid faith until his parents immigrated to the United States, leaving him behind at just 10 years old. In their absence, he was placed in the care of relatives who practiced Haitian voodoo, introducing him to spiritual beliefs that clashed with the Christian values instilled in him. Those early years of religious contradiction, fear, and instability built the psychological foundation for what would become a deeply fractured mind. At 19, Damas migrated to the United States in search of a better life. By his early 30s, he had built what seemed like a stable life in Naples, Florida. He worked as a chef at a local ale house and was known for boasting that he was the best of the best in his profession. But behind that confident image was a man battling demons, both real and imagined. His 12-year marriage to Guerline Damas was filled with jealousy, paranoia, and violence. In January 2009, police arrested Damas for domestic battery after he attacked Guerline over suspicions that she was being unfaithful. Friends described her as fearful but devoted to protecting her children, even as her marriage deteriorated. The relationship reached a breaking point on September 16, 2009 during an argument about divorce. Damas threatened Guerline's life, warning her that she would not live to leave him. The next day, he followed her to work to confirm his suspicions, consumed by jealousy and convinced she was seeing another man. Later that day, he told co-workers he had a severe headache and felt haunted by dark voices urging him to commit violence. That evening, he left work early and drove to a local store where he purchased a fillet knife, duct tape, and gum. Surveillance footage later confirmed the purchase, which prosecutors would later call a deliberate act of premeditation. When he returned home, Guerline was inside with their 5 children, unaware that this would be their final night alive. An argument erupted, escalating into a violent confrontation. Damas overpowered Guerline, restrained her with the duct tape, and then silenced her in what investigators described as a frenzied and calculated attack. He later told police that he had been overtaken by evil spirits and that a curse placed on him by his mother-in-law or a co-worker had driven him to kill. In his own words, what he did was bad and criminal, yet he denied full responsibility, saying supernatural forces had guided his hand. By the following morning, Damas was still inside the home, sitting among the dead bodies of his wife and children, contemplating suicide. Instead of taking his own life, he made the decision to flee. He booked a one-way flight to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and left Florida in a desperate attempt to escape the horror of what he had done. When Guerline and the children failed to answer phone calls or show up for church and work, her family grew alarmed. On September 19, 2009, deputies performed a welfare check at the family's North Naples townhouse. What they found was a gruesome and unforgettable scene. Inside, they discovered signs of a violent struggle, with blood leading down the hallway to a locked bathroom door. Behind it lay the body of Guerline. In other rooms, they found the remains of the 5 children, Mesac, Marvin, Maven, Megan, and Morgan, ranging in age from 19 months to 9 years old. Each had been killed with the same fillet knife Damas purchased hours before. Meanwhile, Damas had landed in Haiti, where he attempted to avoid capture by moving between relatives' homes. But his freedom did not last long. Within days, Haitian authorities, working with U.S. Marshals, located and arrested him at Toussaint-Louverture International Airport. During his interrogation, he freely confessed to the murders, blaming bad spirits for his actions and insisting that death was the only fitting punishment for what he had done. He told investigators, "I deserve to die." Extradited back to Florida, Damas's court appearances would prove to be as disturbing as the crimes themselves. During his first hearing, he mumbled constantly about God's punishment, refused to cooperate with his lawyers, and often spoke in riddles. At one point, he declared, "Only God knows what I did." His unpredictable behavior led the court to order a series of psychological evaluations to determine whether he was competent to stand trial. Between 2009 and 2017, 5 psychiatrists conducted 12 evaluations, alternating between findings of competence and mental instability. Throughout this period, Damas made erratic outbursts in court. He referred to himself as a child of God, accused his wife of infidelity, and even claimed that some of the children were not his biological offspring. Family members and investigators denied these statements, calling them delusional. Experts agreed, diagnosing him with severe paranoia and delusional thinking. Damas was briefly placed in a state mental health facility for treatment before being deemed stable enough to proceed. After 8 years of legal delays, Damas finally pleaded guilty in 2017 to 6 counts of first-degree murder, waiving his right to a jury trial. In October of that year, Judge Christine Grider of the Collier County Circuit Court sentenced him to 6 concurrent death sentences. During the sentencing hearing, Damas sat expressionless, claiming that "the devil led me to do it." He showed no remorse. Prosecutors described the crime scene as one of the most horrific they had ever encountered, emphasizing that the murders were coldly calculated acts of vengeance against his wife. Following his conviction, Damas and his attorneys launched a long series of appeals. They claimed he was mentally incompetent at the time of his plea and that his defense counsel had failed to protect his rights. In 2019, the Florida Supreme Court unanimously upheld his conviction and death sentence, finding overwhelming evidence that Damas had planned and understood his actions. Despite continued efforts, including a post-conviction motion filed in July 2023, Damas's appeals have all been denied. That same year, while incarcerated in Southwest Florida, Mesac Damas received federal stimulus check payments, officially categorized as economic impact and recovery rebate funds. Senator Rick Scott publicly condemned the revelation, stating American taxpayers are on the hook for $1,300 checks to some of the most heinous criminals we've ever seen. In October 2025, the Florida Supreme Court once again rejected his final appeal, concluding that his competency and due process had been properly handled. Today, Mesac Damas remains on death row at Union Correctional Institution in Florida. His story has become a chilling symbol of how jealousy, faith, and mental instability can intertwine to create unimaginable horror. The victims he left behind, Guerline, a devoted mother, and their 5 innocent children, are remembered fondly by the Naples community. Friends and neighbors recall Guerline as kind, hardworking, and dedicated to giving her children a better life. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Collier County residents held candlelight vigils and prayer gatherings in the family's honor. Churches provided grief counseling, and community leaders created scholarship funds to help victims of domestic violence in Guerline's name. The story of Mesac Damas is not just about murder. It is about how faith, trauma, and mental illness can intertwine to destroy everything in their path. It's about jealousy, control, and the dangerous silence surrounding domestic abuse. Abuse thrives in silence. Speaking up is the first step toward freedom. Whether you're seeking help for yourself or someone else, remember that love should never hurt. You are worthy of safety, peace, and a future free from fear.